Today, I am ranking my variegated plants. Hello, my name is Baliza. Welcome to Plants and Things. We're talking about plants and things. So before I get into the actual plants, I do want to give a shout out to my friend who got this shirt for me, which I really like. Yeah, it's a really fun shirt. And then secondly, I do want to say, because this is about variegation, and I think we have a traditional notion that like rare plants are variegated plants or are the only variegated plants. And so I'm going to be adding like normal house plants that are technically variegated, and I'll discuss that when I get to those plants. But mostly the reason I'm doing this is because I want to have 10 plants on this list and I want to have a countdown from 10. So I'm going to be doing that. Lastly, before I get into the actual plants, I usually do my rankings based on vibes and how I feel about the plant that day. But today I'm going to do it in an orderly fashion. I'm going to rank the plants based on how well they grow, how easy they've been to take care of, how well they keep their variegation, and how easy they are to propagate. Because one thing about me is I'm going to propagate plants because I'm really, like, that's one of my favorite things about keeping plants is propagating them. So if it is not an easy to propagate plants, as some of these plants are, it is out for me. It's out for me. But I guess the plant first has to grow before we can propagate it. So if it's not growing well to begin with, then, you know, we can't even consider the others. So let's get into the plants. And number 10 is my variegated alocatus friedec, which I'm not even going to bother bringing out here because it's just a stump in soil. So like, things have gone really bad. I think in a previous video, I moved it into a smaller cup because things have gone really bad and put it in my propagation box, in one of my propagation boxes. And so I'm not going to bring it out. But this all to say that things have really not gone well with the alocatus friedec, because this is not the first alocatus, not the first, but it's not the only alocatus. I got two alocatus friedec, the variegated kind and the non-variegated kind. And it's not going well with the non-variegated kind either. And so I think this is it for me in alocatus, and I think that's fair I think that's fair. So yeah, not to any surprise to me at number 10 is this. It's at number 10 in conclusion. At number 9 is this variegated tetrasperma, which I won at a plant auction that was held in a WhatsApp group. What was I doing in the WhatsApp group? Vibes. Like, what was I doing there? The lesson here is clearly do not go window shopping unless you intend to buy, because I was simply window shopping and then I bought. Anyway, the plant, when it arrived, and what sold me was the fact that it had like a really big leaf that was really cute. That like fell off 2 weeks ago, and I got scared and I put the plant in a propagation box because I thought the same thing as my variegated friedec was going to happen and I was going to get ahead of it. Anyway, it's been growing well in that week. And I just realized now that it also is growing a new vine, which is absolutely cute. And so maybe number 9 is too high for the plant, but I made this decision based on, information from 2 weeks ago. So that's on the plant. Also, I think the fact that I bought the plant in winter means the plant hasn't had time to show me like how well it grows, how well it propagates. Though that one, I feel like is going to be it's going to score really low, because when I first I do have a non-variegated tetrasperma, which I guess is just called a tetrasperma. And when I got that one, it was back when they weren't super expensive, but they were still, I wouldn't say they were expensive. Maybe it was 400. Did I pay 400 Rand? No. I think I paid 400 Rand, which is about $20 for one vine. And so I decided to propagate it so I could have a fuller plant. And then I cut it up and I cut it up. And that plant is so difficult to propagate. It has such low success rates, and it's not even a me thing, because then I went and read up on it and people were like, yeah, it is a very difficult plant to propagate and to succeed with. And so I am assuming, based on the cousin of this plant or the sister of this plant. I don't know. Anyway, based on that, or the parent. Anyway, based on that, I think this will be really difficult to propagate, but it hasn't like grown. It is winter, and so maybe I should not get plants in winter so that I can have like a whole spring with them, a whole spring and a whole summer to see whether they grow well or not. But yeah, based on that, I am giving this plant. This plant is at position 9. And number 8 is the most overhyped plant that I've ever gotten, and it's the Monstera albo. And I do want to make some side notes before I get into the actual like stuff about the plant. And the first thing is that maybe I just got a bad batch, right? Like I can concede that if it's like, you should have bought it somewhere else, blah, blah, blah. That's fair. Secondly, I think once the plant grows into like full form, because I love my Monstera deliciosa. I featured it a number of times on this plant. And so if that just has the frame with the spotting, I think it'll be absolutely gorgeous. I don't know where I will keep it because I have very little plant space at this point in time. So I do want to say that in the future, when I'm like, oh my goodness, this is one of my favorite plants, it's because, it grew and would be beautiful at that point. So that being said, at this point in time, I am finding the plant to be very meh. And so I bought it, I think, at the beginning of the year I remember joining plant YouTube, not joining as a creator, but joining as a watcher and influencee. The Monstera deliciosa was the it girl, and she stayed the it girl because then there'd be like new batches of plants, rare plants to get, but the Monstera deliciosa was like the one that stayed. And so by the time I got it, it wasn't super expensive anymore. It wasn't cheap. I don't think it's cheap either now, but it's affordable in terms of rare plants. I don't know why I did that, but it is affordable for a rare plant at this point in time, especially just thinking how hyped it was beforehand. So, and when I got it, the person who sold it to me did say, do not repot for the first month. And I was obedient and I did not repot for the first month. But very soon after that, I cut the plant up. And I tried to make 5 plants, and I think 2 died and 3 survived. And so, a 60% is a pass. Though technically, I guess, one of them was already a plant, so that doesn't count. So I guess I got 2 out of 4, so I got 50%, which is still a pass. So yeah, and now I am just looking forward to the day, I guess, when it grows. So I feel like it probably didn't get a chance to grow, because then in autumn it was growing leaves, and then I was repotting it, which I do not recommend. And so I think it just went into its dormancy, and hopefully beginning of spring, which is next week. Well, it's actually technically not next week, but yes, beginning of spring, the plant will obviously, I hope, flourish, and then it will go lower down on this list. But for now, it's very meh. It is easy-ish. It is easy to take care of. I haven't put it in like high humidity or anything like that. It lives in normal humidity. I water it now and again. I think even when it gets a bit dry, it is not fussy. So in terms of that, it's not terrible. But I think it's so high up because of the hype, and so it's like you didn't live up to the hype. At number 7 is my mottled syngonium, which is a plant I do absolutely love. The reason why it's so high up is because this plant has absolutely no variegation on it, and this is one that does live far away from the sun. But that illustrates my point of the fact that this plant does not keep its variegation really well, and the whole point of a variegated plant is the variegation. So I think based on that, it's really high up, but this plant really does like propagate so very easy. Most of the nodes have roots that are already growing, especially with the ones closer to the sun. This one I'm realizing has really short root stems. But yeah, the ones that I propagate, and I will show you an insert, on from the shelf, they have huge, like long, not huge, long roots already before I cut them up and propagate them. So super easy to propagate, super easy to take care of. What was my other thing? Easy to take care of, easy to propagate, does not keep variegation. Grows really well. I was like, I knew there was something else. It does grow very, very well as well. So I feel like I am maybe cheating it by putting it so high up, especially because I really do love this plant. I did mention in last week's video, a video some other time, that I really, really do love this plant. I love how it's growing. I do need to get it a trellis, which is a thing that I will do soon. But yeah, I do generally love the plant, love the shape. I especially love, I was gonna say I love the mature form, but I just really love this plant. But yes, in terms of variegation, it's not good. It's not good. But when it is good, it is very good. At number 6 is the first interloper, which is my first non-rare variegated houseplant, and it is my Bonnie spider plant. So this is the girl in question. I feel like absolutely every single week this plant is being featured on this channel. And as I'm actually holding this, I have not propagated this plant because I wanted to grow more babies. So I actually then should minus points, because why isn't it growing more babies so that I can propagate? I don't think I would chop it up and propagate it, but I do love it when like this plant has lots and lots of plants hanging off it. So yeah, look forward to that day. But for now, I still really love this plant, love the look of it. And the reason I am adding it to my variegated plant list is because it does have this white on green, which is technically variegation, which it keeps really well, clearly. I am struggling to keep up with the watering of this plant, which is why it's quite high up. I feel like because that is to say it's not true. Basically, almost all of the plant leaves have browning on them, even the baby. So I need to get on top of that. Let me see if it's dry, and it is. But yeah, so I haven't propagated it, and it's a wee bit difficult to take care of, but it keeps the variegation really well, and that is technically what this episode is about. So yeah, that girl is at number 6. At number 5 is yet another interloper, which is my Marble Queen Pothos, which has been looking so pretty, even with her bare stems. Here is the plant in question, and before I zoom in, just want to give you a wide view of the bare stems. But this part is looking absolutely gorgeous. There is, yeah. And obviously, is it obvious? This plant does keep its variegation really, really well. Yeah. And it's looking great. Okay, there's a dead leaf in there. Oops. But yeah, it's no longer bare stemmed. And these are really huge and wonderful. The new generation isn't so big, but it's still really cute. Still really, really cute. Yeah, I have nothing else to say. Easy to propagate. Relatively easy. Let me say relatively easy to propagate, because I have also had some propagation mishaps, and I am planning on propagating these bare stems. Both of these two, I'm not so sure about this dark one, because I'm like, oh, I really like that thingy, that stem, and I think I'm just gonna curl this new vine around it. Yeah, it looks like it's wanting to grow a new vine, so I think I'll just twirl that around the other one. So relatively easy to propagate. What was the other one? Easy to take care of, except for the part where you repot it in winter and it decides to lose all its leaves. But that was on me rather than the plant. So yeah, I think it's a good plant. It's a good one. I've enjoyed keeping it and having it. Yeah. Number 4 is my Monstera, which is a plant that I think is appropriately hyped. It is Absolutely gorgeous. It also has not done any growing. No, I'm lying. It grew this one leaf since it arrived, and it's a pretty cute leaf. I really like it. I like this plant way more than the monstera elbow. And again, perhaps I just have a bad specimen of monstera elbow, and maybe my monstera elbow is a bit too small, because this does have now what is it, the fenestrations already, so maybe that's it. But this is also still a pretty small plant, and I still am like, yeah, you're pretty cute. So the variegation on it is gorgeous. Seems stable to me. I would be surprised if one day things were happening. I also love the name, Thai constellation. But that's a random side note. In terms of propagation, I have not attempted to propagate this plant. I doubt that I will attempt to propagate this plant, because the node spacing is so close together. I'll show you, because actually I can take this out of here. It is dry. It is very dry, and this pot is too big. This planter is too big for this pot, so I do need to get it a little pot. But yeah, the node spacing is too short. Like, I'd be so scared of propagating it. I think I could do it now that I'm looking at it. I'm like, where would I cut? I think I could do it. I doubt I'm gonna do it, because again, I love propagating, but also, yeah, we don't need more plants in this home. But I do think this plant is absolutely gorgeous. And then what else? It is easy to take care of. When I got it, the person told me that it doesn't like wet feet, and I should, oh my God, I just remembered, I just had a flashback. When I got it, she was very like, it doesn't like wet feet. And then I watched a video. Okay, so it wasn't her. I was going to pin this on her. But then I watched a YouTube video about like how I'm going to take care of my Tycon, because plenty of people speak about how difficult it's been to take care of this plant, how they almost killed the plant, and how they had to get another one, and what a struggle. Like, the difficulty of taking care of this plant is very hyped, as much as the plant is hyped. So I watched a video, and this person said you must water it thoroughly, and then you have to put it on a saucer where it'll drip out for like 20 or 30 minutes, and then you're going to put it back into its plant. And I think I did that 2 or 3 times, and then realized that this is not sustainable for me. It is not something. So now I've been watering it in its planter, and it's been fine. I do pour out excess water though. So if I do happen to water too much, I do pour out excess water. I also think having a clear pot is incredibly helpful. I like seeing these big roots, but I think even with my orchid, which is dying / has died, I think it's helpful to see the state of the roots, because then you know for sure what's happening. And so I can confidently say that the plant roots are growing well. They're growing well, and this is the like newest root over there, which is so cool. So I think it might be a thing that I grow all my plants in these clear pots. They're so cool. So yeah, it's been a breeze to take care of after the initial like finickiness and taking that advice. And I think that also speaks to what I've said before on this channel, which is in taking care of your plants, all of us have to exercise God-given curiosity regarding our plants, and actually like see how the plant is reacting to the things we do, because we're all growing our plants in different environments. And yeah, what works for you might not work for me and in this environment. And maybe also, I think another thing is when you do a root cause analysis of something, I think a lot of times people already have the solution or think they have the solution. So the root cause analysis is not even like properly done. So then they're like, oh, it's because of the watering, but it could have been you're over fertilizing, you're whatevering, like, oh, I was going to nerd out. I am actually going to nerd out about science and how like you have to be methodical and try different things and see the response over a period of time rather than deciding. The problem is if you have the solution already and then you try to like have the things you're doing fit which I think a lot of people, not just plant people, just people generally, we tend to do that. We tend to be like, this is the problem. And then you go to the place and then the doctor's like, no, that's not the problem. And you're like, pretty sure that's the problem. But that's a ramble. That is an extremely long side note. But anyway, that is my Thai constellation at number 4. And number 3 is the last interloper on this list, and it's my pothos Enjoy, which also has been featured a whole number of times, like a lot on this channel recently. But it has these cute little leaves. I'm loving it more and more. I love it in this pot. What have I not said about this plant? It is super easy to propagate. I have a number of them propagating in my propagation box right now. And it grows super easy. It's a really forgiving plant. And I know there was a stage where it was like, I'm done now. But generally, this plant is really forgiving. Overwater it, underwater it, it'll just keep on going. But it is super difficult to start it, I think. Not in the sense of propagating, but I think once you want a fuller plant, I found that to be a bit difficult in the beginning. But now it's filling up. So once it takes off, it does take off. So I think it's easy to propagate, but then it also takes a bit of time to start growing. And then once it starts, it goes, as it is doing now on this side. So I'm trying to put this side more to the sun. And I really like the leaves. They really are cute. They have splashes of white, lighter green, a darker green, white on green. It's really like each leaf is a masterpiece that God is painting, and I think that is absolutely gorgeous. And that is number 4. I am lying, that is number 3. And number 2 is a plant that I feel, because I might be incorrect, I think it made its debut on this channel last week, but I actually might have featured it before, and it is my variegated peace lily, and I will put the scientific name, which is like Spathiphyllum something on the screen. And its newest leaf is unfurling, which is really cute, but I think this plant and I struggled a bit when I first got it, but now it just is quietly chugging along and just growing. And I think, again, the splashes, it reminds me kind of the monstera tyon in the like splashes, but these splashes are like, it's almost like a paintbrush. Like a paintbrush. It's like God came and did that. So that's what it more reminds me of. I really like it. I haven't tried to propagate it, nor do I think I will try to propagate it. I think it self-propagates by making divisions in itself. So I don't think it's done that. I think it's still growing from, one stem situation. So I guess it's not really easy to propagate. But I also think it's just chugging along cutely in the background. It grows in a low lightish area. And it goes dry, and then it goes like, it's, as I'm saying this, I actually feel like I might have said this, I think I said this about the other plants as well, but then gave them low marks. So perhaps this video is also somewhat based on vibes as well. This is a really easy to take care of plant. Absolutely one of my favorites. It did take a very long time to figure it out. I tried water. Did I try water? I did try water with this plant as well, and then moved it, and this is its spot now. I tried different spots in the house, and it seems to be liking the spot. Yes, it is kneeling down or like moving like that, but you know what? It's so that I can see it. And number 1, to no one's surprise, is my Syngonium albo, and this is not based on favoritism. This plant really does check off all of the criteria that I mentioned before. It is super easy to propagate. I have not propagated this particular plant as yet, nor do I think I will. I do have a lot of propagations lying around the house though, from when I chopped this particular plant up back then. It's also super easy to take care of. This plant has been overwatered and this plant has been underwatered, and it has just kept on chugging. It also, like, once it takes off, it grows super well. In its growing season, it really is like popping out a plant. Before the other plant is unfurled, it's already popping up a new plant. And what was the last one? Super easy to take care of, grows really well, propagates really well. Oh, it keeps its variegated. This video is in fact about variegation. This plant keeps its variegation really well. Yeah, even the pot, like the ones that, the 1 or 2 or 3 leaves that are just dark green with like a splotch, like just a splotch at the end to remind you that it is a Syngonium albo. Yeah, it like, oh, now I'm like, I want to see it. Some are whiter, some are darker. The splashes, like the combinations, no 2 leaves the same. Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I've had to even take out, I used to have some like 3 or 4 books here. Yeah, I used to have my cooking books and a Bible over here, and I had to actually move that because, yeah, I needed the space because this plant is like needing to branch out now. So it does grow super well, and it is the like MVP of this home. Is that true? But I like it. It is the MVP of the variegated plants. Let me not come for the other plants like that. That is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will see you next time. Bye.